Well, a little quick one-page stamping history show and tell piece to show you. It's a flyer from Stamp Your Heart Out. Okay, now as I was told, this was the first rubber stamp specific store out there. There were gift stores that carried rubber stamps, including the previous store that this owner for Stamp Your Heart Out owned. But this was the first dedicated, I don't know, whatever, stamping hobbyist rubber stamp store, I don't know, around, I guess. Okay. So, this store opened, I just did a little research, and it opened in 1989, okay? And it closed, so don't try to go here, in 2014 after 25 years in business. This is the first store that I ever taught at, and it was located in Claremont, California, and was owned by Joan Bunty, I think her name was, or however it's pronounced, okay? But I thought we'd take a look at this. I found this kind of interesting here, okay? So you can see what's new at Stamp Your Heart Out, okay? So in 1989, there were a decent number of independent rubber stamp, manufacturing companies. I guess we were all independent, but I worked for a Stamp in the Hand starting in 1987. And, so that's how I knew of Stamp Your Heart Out. They were a client of a Stamp in the Hand company. But anyways, looking at this list of companies, what's new at Stamp Your Heart Out on their little, I guess, monthly flyer here. All Night Media, Undersea Adventures Stamp a Story, 33 stamps, a stamp pad idea book, and idea book, Talking Stamps, stamps that speak for themselves, whatever that means, 6 designs guaranteed to make you smile. Okay, so our All Night Media, that was a big company, right? Commotion Rubber Stamps, not on the level of All Night Media, or like Hero Arts right here, and Rubber Stampede. But Hero Arts was the next one on the list. Wonderful new graphic alphabet and number set. You didn't see too many alphabet and number sets back then because they were huge, and manufacturers weren't sending something out overseas and having to mass produced, easily, okay? Or like those foam types of die cut punch sets. Maybe, one of these bigger companies were at the time, but I don't remember. I think we were making wood mounted stamp sets, and, someone's having to make that up one by one, or, by hand, I should say. But Marvy, okay, the brush marker company, Liquid Applique, right here. In 1989, all right. Now, this was from 1992, okay, still. But in 1992, there weren't there weren't a lot of companies making stamp pads, if there were any at this time. I don't think there were. So we're talking about Marvy ink markers in terms of the 1500 series or the La Plumes. And then there were also Tombos, but those were the 3 main things that people were inking up their stamps with at the time, unless it was like a business type of rubber stamp pad, not raised, but recessed. So you limited to what could fit within the confines of a stamp pad, okay? Raised pads came out later. Personal Stamp Exchange, PSX, as we know. Summer collection of creatures, big and small. Printworks, all right. New die cut shapes, lowercase, dot alphabet, whatever dot alphabet means. Rubber Stampede, new Victorian kits, cats. Paper bears, flowers, the Disney collection, get that, Disney, licensed, big time licensed media right there. Charles Wysocki collection. Forgive me for butchering the name. Collection of folk art stamps. Cynthia Hart collection of Victorian images. And Stampendous here. Paper foiling. Ask for a demo. More great new stamps and products arriving in late July. Okay, here's the thing that's unusual about this. As it became later on, let's say Oh, another 5 to 8 years later, you didn't see All Night Media. Yeah, you might have seen Hero Arts, Rubber Stampede, these types of companies that started selling in the big box stores, okay? A small store wouldn't be carrying those kind of mass distributed types of stamps at that point in time. Like the big five companies or something like that, that started selling to, your chain types of stores and whatnot. So it's interesting seeing all of that kind of noted here because those were the big companies and those were the stores like this were the ones that were really marketing and promoting those types of products for those companies at this point in time. So, anyways, okay, no, this was their calendar right here, calendar of events. And I guess the reason why I have this one is because I'm on here, but I don't know. They have things like a Hero Arts type of workshop right here. A lovely little ladybug from our friends at Hero Arts. Different types of classes, envelope artistry. Mail art, MAIL art was big at the time. So doing envelopes was, it was a pretty big deal. That was a pretty big audience for rubber stamping at the time. They came from the mail artisan type of community, and places like on Facebook still have mail art groups. It's gonna, Facebook's gonna have every type of group out there. But so that's it right here. Friday, it's our birthday. We think you're great. Help us celebrate. Party supplies for you with $5 purchase. Okay. Saturday demo days right here. Um, Sunday, pick a postcard from our newest exclusive line. Interesting. Okay, so Tuesday, Tea for You class with Marilyn Pace. Probably stamping with some sort of tea types of elements. I remember the tea genre was a big, well, not real big, but there were a few stamps in the Stamp of the Hand line that had to do with tea kettles, teacups, that type of thing. Um, and that's who I was working for at the time. In like 91, 92-ish, I started Stamps Apes more around 93. But I had a lot of stamps in the Stamp of the Hand line. So anyways, look at this right here. So Thursday, the 16th, July 16th, Landscaping 101 class with Ken Nakagawa. People always get my name wrong all the time. I still go by Ken with a lot of people. I don't know, when you say Kevin, maybe people just hear Ken. So for years, a lot of people called me Ken, which is fine with me. It's a good name. One name's, you know what I mean? I know what people are talking about. I hear that name, first of all, because there's not a lot of guys in stamping. So, if you hear the name, some name starting with a K, whatever. Okay, so here's Rubber Stampede workshops, personal stamp exchange. I mean, that went on for a few years. There were still a few years to go, where into your independent store, non-chain, non-big box, and that type of thing, were still carrying, your major manufacturer types of things. It didn't last for too long after this because, we're talking about 92, this groundswell is kind of forming, and by the mid 90s and especially the late 90s to 2000, just, I don't know if that was the apex. It was probably around a little bit more into 2000s, early 2000s. That's when there were so many different stores out there and whatnot, different publications, conventions taking place everywhere and whatnot. But also, the big box stores got into the game, started carrying, stamps like PSX, Rubber Stampede, All Night Media, and those types of things. These companies long since stopped going to like the Carson show. But I used to see places like companies like I think okay, so PSX. I think they were going to the Carson show in the first couple ones that I went to around 88 89, in those years, but they quickly stopped doing that, just became like a wholesale supplier. Let's see here. Special effects class. We're stuck on you. Sticker sampler pack from Mrs. Grossman's Paper Company. Okay. So pretty early on in the the scrapbooking style of materials there. I don't know when scrapbooking kind of really took off, but it wasn't at this point in time, but a little bit of groundswell of kind of, interest in that hobby right there. And of course, scrapbooking, as we all know, kind of just, became this rolling kind of juggernaut of, the paper arts types of, thematic everything, classes, stores, everything, conventions. Photo album artistry class, back to school kids class. Choose your ABC stamp from Inka Dinka Doo. Okay, so Inka Dinka Doo, I think I used to see them at the Carson convention. They were one of those companies that were making the rainbow stamp pads, and I believe, yeah. They were long since making the rainbow styles of stamp pads. I don't know why they weren't. I don't know if they were making solid colors or not, but I don't think we carried them at a Stamp in the Ham. And if we did, maybe we did, but the rainbow pads were definitely the things that were kind of the most interest to people back then. But look at this right here. So I was teaching on a Thursday right here. I couldn't remember if this was the first class I ever taught in this flyer right here. If it was 92, I probably started demonstrating Stampscapes in 91. I think that's when I came out with the, or 91, I think was when I started demonstrating though, for a Stamp in Hand at the Carson show, just because I came out those landscape stamps there. This might have been the second class that I taught there. I didn't teach there too many times while working for a Stamp in the Hand, but it was like on a Thursday night. So I see all classes start at 6:30 p.m. To 8:30 p.m. They were $15 at the time. And so Thursday, if anyone knows Los Angeles and Orange County, that's like prime rush hour. And getting out to Claremont from LA County, driving out into the Orange County area, which is where Claremont, I think Claremont's Orange County. Is it Orange County? But you have to go through that whole area. They call it the Orange Crush. Even at that point in time, it was nuts. And when I started Stampscapes and started working independently, it would take me hours to get out there, and it was probably only like 25 miles from me. But I remember it took me about 2 hours one way to get out there one time. And it was like, oh my God, I can't teach out there on the weekdays anymore like that. And I think that's, I don't know. Well, I guess they did teach on Saturdays and Sundays as well out there, but I'm not sure. But the first class I ever taught out there was like on a weekday. And my old boss from Stamp the Hand drove me out there. And, trying to make a long story short, I had taken like a slideshow out there, and it was from the presentation that I made at the Carson convention. So the Carson convention, let me think now, I think it would have been in early July. So maybe this is the first class I ever taught out there. But I took my full slideshow, like a slide reel and everything like that. Okay, but going back, Stamp Your Heart Out at this time, or maybe it stayed like this, but I know she opened up a scrapbook store, but then I think they were running simultaneously or something like that. I thought they moved to a completely new location. It was like Scrap Your Heart Out or something, or something like that. Stamp Out Your Memories. I forget what it was. I just read in that article, but this place right here was 470, I think, square feet. The store was, and there must have been a small area in the back, this like pegboard wall or something like that. So we're talking about that front room being only, I don't know, I'm guessing. If it was 20 by 20, I'd find that pretty big. it was probably a little bit less than that. So it was moving all of the products off of the display tables and then making it, available to teach on. So I had a lot of stamps and everything like that to teach with, I think, that we took out there. It was like the demo stamps from the conventions or something like that, or we put together more stamps, I think, to teach with. But there were probably like 8 people in there or something like that. You couldn't really move around too much in there. And yeah, I just remember doing that little slideshow showing kind of the examples of where, the inspiration for the designs came from, and showing some examples of the finished, I don't know, whatever pieces, works or whatever that were created from the stamps. And then we got stamping. Okay, so I think at the time, everyone was stamping on glossy cardstock, and then we were using the Marvy, 1500 series of pens. We must have, got a bunch more pens or something like that and throw them out there on the table for everyone to share. I don't know how that worked, but I don't know. Everyone did pretty well. I don't know if we did. I don't think we were doing make and takes in the booth for a stamp in the hand. It was all demonstrations at that point in time. Still, I think make and takes came later. So I'm guessing right now we must have pulled a lot more pens and things like that for people to utilize in that class. But I did pretty well. It was using the stamp called Field of Sky, which was the precursor for the tonal applicator, if anyone knows what I'm talking about with that. But yeah, we just did, I don't know, we probably did 2 or 3, standard card size pieces with that. And the class went pretty well, but I remember I was so nervous that at one point in time when I was demonstrating, I looked at my hand and it was kind of shaking like this. And I had never, taught much, much less done any kind of public speak. And I did that presentation at the Carson show with that slideshow. And I remember going there and having these copied Xerox handouts to give out, showing all of the different designs in the Nature series, I think it was called. And I remember the light bulb for my boss's slide projector burnt out. So we were frantically going around with that because what am I going to talk about, without that bulb? I couldn't remember if we found one or not, or if I just had to just wing it. And anyways, I hadn't done any type of public speaking at that point in time, aside from maybe speech, in high school or something like that. And I remember estimating there must have been like 200 people in that whatever lecture hall, because I remember the handouts that I made were like 100 or something like that, and it only made it like halfway through the to the back of the room. So it was like, oh my gosh, it was a trial by fire, and but this, I don't know what was more nerve wracking. I think kind of teaching, just for 8 people, doing that presentation. But I remember Joan, though, at the end of class, she goes, "Yeah, you did pretty good." She goes, your hand was shaking a little bit, but you did fine, and it was it always kind of cracked me up about that one. But anyways, stamp your heart out, special place in my heart for that store and Joan, and just the first place that I ever taught a class at. Thanks for the opportunity, Joan. You can find out some information there's this article, a digital file or page out there for Stamp Your Heart Out. Okay, now it's not to be mistaken for Stamp Your Art Out in in Cincinnati, and the promoter for Stamp Away USA, the convention out there. But this is Stamp Your Heart Out in Claremont. So a little story on them kind of pops up when they were doing a little article in their local paper for, I don't know, it was like their last day in business or something like that. So Anyway, fun stuff to take a look at and just to see, what, companies were kind of listed on here. It's just interesting seeing some of the major five, whatever, the big five companies out here. Not all of them in here, but like All Night Media, Hero Arts, Rubber Stampede for sure. And I don't know, maybe you'd throw PSX in there as well, And these other companies were big too. Stampendous, I think they're still out there. Fun Stamps, but the ones that kind of started, the whole thing with rubber stamping in general, were those big manufacturers out there, such as like I said, All Night Media. But it's just kind of interesting seeing them listed here in terms of the things to the companies to kind of, have a notification for as far as the things that they were coming out with. And again, that's because it's in 1992 and not, say, 2002, where you wouldn't probably see that anymore. You would see, these other companies listed, probably, the second tier types of companies or whatnot, that were, a lot more kind of dynamic and reaching the stampers, you know what I mean, as opposed to the big box stores became a little bit more of a, kind of a, stampers too, but kind of more general public targeted because, they were putting them out there. These types of stores couldn't carry those stamps anymore because, those other, those companies would have, or the stores would have like, coupons for 50% off, you know what I mean? So they weren't going to buy it from your independent, retailer anymore because they couldn't afford to do something like that, because they were buying at wholesale, not a big discounted price off wholesale where you're still making, somewhat of a profit or just giving away stuff just to get people in the store there. So different type of, different types of workshops, different types of, advertising and whatnot and notifications in terms of, news for that given location. So anyways, yeah, if stamp your art out or, some of these other companies, put a little notation down below, but fun times for sure at your, independent stamp stores out there. Really great times, and really always enjoyed giving classes in those stores like that. I really liked those smaller stores like that. It seems like I remember those ones a lot, of those really kind of cozier kind of environments like that. And, just filled to the brim with stamps, it just kept filling up and up and up, at some of these stores with samples all around and everything like that. And I don't know, it felt like teaching in your, home or something like that. It was just really fun times, and there's a lot of creative energy kind of, whatever crammed into one, small environment with people having fun. So I guess it's more like a party. Maybe that's what it was like, All right. Anyways, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. If you like this video, hope you hit the like button and subscribe.